It was a lot of work from the start, like working multiple hours a day in Bali when we could be at the beach. But still, it wasn't like a 9 to 5. Like we'd wake up, we'd go do our yoga, we'd come back, we'd work during the day, we'd end around like 3 or 4, we'd go to the beach and watch the sunset. So it was still like really chill, but we wanted to cut it down to even working less. So we started hiring virtual assistants.
All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Mic'd for Success. Today, we got a special guest, someone that has flown all over the world that keeps leaving, and I can't set up an interview because she keeps leaving. We got Kendall Fuhrman, who is also USC alum, and I know I keep talking and keep having USC people on, but that's my network, and people are very spiritual and like to talk about amazing things, so we're having another one on. But welcome, Kendall. Welcome to Mic'd for Success. I hope you didn't have a long drive from Huntington Beach.
No, not too far.
How's your day going?
It's going pretty good. Been a good day. Woke up really early at like 5:30 a.m. Did yoga. Lately, I've been so lazy with my routines and mindfulness, and I'm someone who like needs to meditate every day or it just like doesn't turn out good. So I've been pretty lazy with that, but today was a good day and I was like, I have to make sure I'm ready and on it for the podcast. So I started off good today.
Got to get the whole makeup routine outfit in. Outfit looks great as usual.
Thank you.
But for people that don't know Kendall is a world traveler, a podcast host of Kendall's World, and also a content creator, and has a whole backside on spirituality and mindset and all that cool things that I actually don't really know much about, which we'll 100% get into.
You will after this.
There we go. I will learn a ton. I'm more going to be asking the questions that I don't know because I clearly do not know a lot about this whole world. But before we get into that, let's talk about our sponsor of My Whistlebox. Talk about our sponsor, My Whistlebox. My Whistlebox is a doubly encrypted service that allows you to keep your private information safe and exchange information securely between parties. My Whistlebox offers you e-signatures, privacy, notes, whistle pages, a ton of other cool features, and a better alternative than email. So if you're using email to send or receive private information, stop and start using My Whistlebox. Sign up today to get started with your free account. No payment required. There's no reason to not start today. Happy whistling. And now we are going to start with the show and our two little dogs that have been in the last 3 episodes, which we got our last day here. Last day here at Club Dub, and little Bailey having the spotlight, and Lexi, who's asleep right here. But so welcome, Kendall. Welcome to the show. Tell everyone who you are, where you're from, everything about yourself.
Oh, wow. That's a lot. Hi, everyone. I'm Kendall Fuhrman. I am 25 years old, and I grew up in Huntington Beach, California. I currently live in Huntington Beach, California, but I am based here, and I travel all around the world. What kind of kick-started my traveling career, I would say, was after high school. I left the closed, like, small bubble of Orange County, and I moved to Paris, France, and lived in Paris for my whole freshman year of college, which was amazing, eye-opening, and really just kind of started the travel bug for me. And went back to USC, studied there, finished, graduated, and then after that, started traveling. I mean, there's a lot more details within that, but that's the gist of it. And now I am based here in Huntington, and I run different businesses, podcast host, work for myself, content creator, and, just live life and have fun doing that.
That is super cool, and everyone probably agrees. And we're going to get into all the fun stuff between traveling, spirituality, all her mindset tips, things how women out there can now start their own businesses and grow to the beautiful humans they should be, and that are empowered to do everything that they're able to do, that a lot of asshole guys have kept them away from doing a lot of things in the world. But let's get into that. You are a world traveler. You started off in Paris. And how about you explain your unleashing the travel story of, I know you went to Paris for the USC program, but explain how that kind of triggered your adventure side and finally realizing maybe this is something you want to do in the world and travel and have your own life.
Totally. Traveling is always something I love to do since a young age, but I think I didn't really travel too far out of, this side of the world. I went to Mexico, Panama, El Salvador, and it wasn't until Paris when I did that like really big trip. But for me, it was like a no question when I got the offer. I was originally supposed to go to LMU, RIP, and I did not go there, which I'm very glad with the decision I made because USC was my dream school. And I got a rejection letter initially saying, like, you did not make it. I was so upset, threw the letter, was very upset. Senior year of high school, you know how it goes, rejection letters. And my mom found the letter and then read at the bottom. It was like a little thing at the very bottom that it was like, actually, you got into the Trojan transfer plan. You can go study at a junior college and then transfer. And I was like, I don't want to do that. Like, I want to get out there. I don't want to go to a junior college. So then I just decided on LMU, had a roommate, put a deposit down. Like, it was like mid-April. That's when everyone's pretty final about their decision for college. And then I got an email from USC saying, hey, we're going to start something new. It's called the Paris program, where you can go live in Paris for a year and then transfer to USC. Woke up at like 6 a.m., saw that email, and immediately applied because I had to apply to the program. And I got in the next day and I was like, Mom and Dad, I got into this Paris program. And I didn't really ask. I kind of just said, I think I'm going to do it. And that was a huge deal for me growing up in kind of a stricter family, religious family. Just, I didn't even know if they would like approve of it or allow me to go. And I was like pleasantly surprised. They're like, yeah, that sounds like a great opportunity. You should do it. And I was like, what? Oh my God. And then I just fully committed to it. And that whole year in Paris, it was very eye-opening for me because I grew up in a very Christian small high school. So I didn't really get to experience much of life. Like, we literally didn't even have school dances. That's how strict it was. And I was very goody two-shoe, did not drink in high school, didn't do anything. And so my freshman year in high school, in Paris, literally experiencing nightlife for the first time in European nightclubs until 5 a.m.
Oh, that must have been fun.
Amazing. Drinking champagne under the Eiffel Tower. Like, my first time ever drinking was under
They're
the
like,
Eiffel
hey,
Tower.
here's some Jaeger bombs. You're like, I don't know what that is.
Literally that. No, someone tried to give me, I remember, like, I was so innocent. Someone tried to give me a tequila shot and I was like, I don't want to. But so funny. But I really grew up in that year, and I was always very mature growing up, but it just allowed me to push myself past my boundaries and not even living in a dorm. Like, I skipped the whole dorm life. I literally lived in an apartment in the middle of France with French neighbors, hanging out with French people. And it was, I feel like at the time I was very upset I didn't get into USC, but it was a blessing in disguise because I was able to experience so much more life by going to Paris and living the European lifestyle. And it's such a different lifestyle than like frat life, for example. And so I think it was a much easier transition into like adult life than if I were to go straight to USC, because a lot of people can't handle college life when they go straight to, like, as a freshman into college life, because it's just like the drinking culture in America is so different than Europe. And I'm very glad I got to have that like more easeful transition into adult life.
And speaking of Paris, I had a ton of friends that did the Paris transfer. It's an amazing program. It's, I think, one of the best programs in terms you're able to go to international waters and then take classes and come back. What was it like studying over there? I know a lot of kids get caught up, and for the kids that are out there applying to schools right now and have a program where they can go overseas, what was it like? Did you think that was the best opportunity you've ever been a part of because you're able to experience living on your own, you're overseas, it's a different mindset? Mm-hmm. Or were some kids caught up in the moment of, hey, I'm on my own, I'm going to drink every night and not do class, and maybe they learned the hard way and not get into their dream school?
Yeah, definitely. Some kids did not get in because they partied too hard. I think I'm very grateful for the way I was raised. And even though, like, you know, looking back, like, most people would say, like, oh, you didn't drink in high school, like, that's not fun, that's not cool. But I'm actually really grateful I didn't, because it allowed me to learn how to pace myself. Like, I had a very good work life, social life balance, and I never got carried away. Even though I had a ton of fun, I always knew how to handle myself, and I've always been a very good student, like straight A's, like almost got a 4.0 at USC. Not to brag or anything, but didn't get the 4.0, 3.9. But I've always been a very good student, so it's been very easy for me to just be able to juggle. You know, we would literally go book a flight and go to Germany for the weekend for Oktoberfest, or go to Amsterdam, go to Italy, go to Prague for the Katy Perry concert. Like, our lives were so crazy looking back. Like, the life I lived was so insane, but I was still able to really balance that school life, especially because I had to get a certain GPA to get in, and some kids didn't, but thankfully I was able to balance it all.
Do you think speaking French in Paris, I mean, were you able to speak French? I have a really weird experience. I was in France and I got a crepe. I asked the waiter, I said, hey, can I have some bananas and blueberries on it? yelled at me saying, "No crepe for you." Literally took the crepe away like it was a Seinfeld moment, like no soup for you. And I was really confused, and I called my parents up that day and I said, I don't know if it was rude or if I was rude. I don't know what happened. Like in the French culture, if they give you something, you don't argue, you just take it. Did you have any experiences like that?
Oh,
Of
I definitely did.
American French moments where they apparently hate us?
Well, I didn't have too many bad experiences with, I know a lot of people say like French people hate American people, but I had really great experiences with French people. And I think it's all about your attitude and not acting like a tourist, which is kind of what I talk about on my podcast as well. Like that travel mindset and coming in and like being respectful of, you know, the area you're in and just like understanding the culture. But I've definitely had a moment. I remember, I think it's the most moments I've had where like someone's been rude to me were like French waiters, people like going to a restaurant. It's kind of like in American culture, it's very, the customer's always right, and there it's not that way. But I remember sitting down for like one of our first meals. My parents were there because they flew me out to like help me settle into Paris, and we sit down and get this pasta. And I remember I'm chewing it, and all of a sudden there's a piece of glass like in my tooth, and I pulled it out, and I was like, oh my god! And I showed it to them, and they like. Okay, fine, I guess we'll replace the pasta. But they didn't even like take it off the bill or anything. They didn't care. So that was like the first experience. And then another one is like you can't sit down at the cafe unless you're having something. And we had a group of like 3 people. Everyone was having something except for one. And then they're like, you guys can't sit here. Everyone sitting here has to order something.
That's a rule?
Yeah, if you're sitting there, you have to order something. Where here, it's like you can sit at a cafe for hours and work and order one drink, and most likely they're not going to kick you out. But there, it's like you have to be ordering something constantly, or else you have to get up and leave and give your space to someone else.
I got a lot of water. Like you walk in, like, have a glass of water. Nope. You buying something? Nope. Sorry. Like I got a lot of those.
Yeah, that's definitely a thing. But overall, like I've had amazing experiences with French people, and I think it's like the attitude you bring and the people you attract. Like you attract the energy that you're like, and that's 100% true for me with traveling.
Being a student in Paris, what was your favorite moment? Was there any moments you're like, this is actually reality, I'm studying here?
Every single moment like was so romantic. Everything was so romantic to like the extreme. Just walking to class every day, because everything there is at the city so walkable. The architecture, the people, like my favorite moments, because I was taking like advanced writing, and I love writing myself. I'm a writer and I write poetry, and that's why I love doing podcasts as well. I just love like kind of flowing with my speech and just channeling different modes of literature, I guess. And so I would sit at a cafe and just watch everything going on, and I would just free write like stream of consciousness, everything that was happening. And that was like a part of the writing assignments during my time there. So that kind of got me into that way of writing, which was like an old school way of writing. I can't remember what time period it's based off of, but that's the thing that we were learning. So I would just do that in my free time, even without having to have an assignment. I would literally just go to the cafe and drink wine or coffee and write everything I would see, and it would just be so romantic to watch everything going on, and so many different types of people, couples, old people, young people, kids, and just like being so present and aware. I think that was like some of the best parts. It's just like not even like I've had crazy stories from Paris, but some of the best
we'll get
parts
into one
were,
of them.
Yes, some of the best parts were the mundane parts of life, how romantic the mundane parts were.
I don't think myself I realized it. I think I love the museums. When I saw, what was it? Isn't the Mona Lisa?
Yeah.
When I saw the Mona Lisa, I was not your typical artist person. I was like, it's a picture. It's so tiny. Why is everyone hyping up about this? Such a small picture. But I think all the museums and the architect and everything that's in there is the most amazing thing ever. What was the coolest thing with your experience? Do you recommend anything when people travel there our age to go? Like not to settle on maybe, yes, go to the Eiffel Tower, but everything else, like what do you recommend living there, saying if you have to come here for a couple of weeks, where should you go as a young 20-year-old?
Well, it's been such a long time since I've been there, and things change a lot, but I guess, so for club recommendations, I couldn't give club recommendations because the clubs recycle like every 2 years there. Like the cool clubs when I was there are probably so old and like, ew, don't go there, you know? Kind of like how at USC, like people would go to Bootsy Bellows, and then now that wasn't cool when you got to USC. That was like, yeah. So when I first started at USC, that was the cool thing. Anyway, so I can't give nightlife advice, but I can give general advice is, I would say, you know, do the touristy things, but do them not in a touristy way. Like, I don't know, like ride bikes through the Seine, sit on the Seine, drink wine with your friends, meet French people. I think that's the most important thing is like, don't just stick to your group of friends, American friends, like venture out and meet French people, hop on Tinder, swipe, find people like to actually be friends with. I literally used Tinder while traveling, even having a boyfriend. Like when I was traveling solo, like I would just set it to girls and guys and be like, hey, I'm traveling, not looking for anything. I just want to have friends. And I met so many
You're one of
friends that
those.
way.
Wow, you're one of those.
What does that mean?
When a guy sees a good-looking girl and is like, nah, I'm just here to be friends. Oh, okay.
Well, I so explicitly say I'm traveling, and when people are traveling, they're typically in that same mindset too. So a lot of the people I meet aren't looking for anything; they just want to find people to travel with. So you can find people that way, meet friends, just do slow walks, like just romanticize everything that you do. Don't try to rush Paris. I think one of the things that people like go to Paris and they say, oh, it wasn't as good as I expected, is because you're trying to fit everything into like 5 days. I would say spend more time there because living like a local there is what makes Paris so special, not rushing through it like a tourist.
That is amazing. And we'll talk about Paris in a little bit, but let's move on. You go from Paris to finally get into USC, which congratulations, after your first round, you get into USC this time. Your whole mindset changed. You grew up in basically being overseas, and when you got to SC, your whole mindset changed, which I know you want to talk about your spirituality and new things you start thinking about, the business side. Let everyone know when you got to SC what your mindset was and how you started being an entrepreneur and growing as a person.
Yeah, I mean, I think when I first got to USC, I was just really excited to experience it. So my first year, especially, I was just really into Greek life, into the different clubs. I just wanted to experience everything within USC, and it was so much fun. But every single semester, I had an internship. I've always been like, I don't like to use the word hustler, but I've always been like a go-getter, always had a job since I was 16, always been entrepreneurial minded. So I was very focused on internships as well as like school life. So like that work-life balance, like always have had a really good time with balancing all of those. But in terms of like mindset, in terms of mindset, I would say what changed a lot during USC was in my junior year was when I started to get tired of the partying, the frat life, and I kind of missed that more cultural life of Paris, and I think I was just like craving that. And so I kind of went through a phase where, not gonna lie, I was depressed for like 6 months. I was like, what am I doing? Like, I don't feel fulfilled anymore. I'm tired of partying. I'm tired of this. And this was also when I started to question my religion. I grew up really Christian, and for me, it just wasn't working. And I started questioning, like, okay, if there's other religions out there, like, why is this one the right one? And for me, I found my path through spirituality. And that was when I started to question my religion and really start to step into this higher version of myself and a more abundance mindset. So I used to have a lot more of a lack mindset. Like my mind would always be thinking of worst case scenarios. Like, I know a lot of people deal with this, especially in business. Like, you're constantly thinking about the worst case scenario, what bad could happen, how to prepare for the worst. And in my business life and in just like personal life, I would always be thinking of that. And I just had such a negative mindset. And I was tired of it. I was like, I don't want to have a negative mindset anymore. So I started getting into mindfulness, meditation, yoga, started reading all these different books, started getting into manifestation, and really helped change my mindset and started manifesting things like instantly. And it was so powerful to see how empowered we can be when you make that shift in yourself. Like when you realize you're not a victim to your situations, you can control your situations and you can empower yourself to have a different mindset through those situations as well. And so it was really through USC that I started to challenge myself, and studying abroad in South Africa going into my senior year also was a big game changer because I started to delve more into like the science of it and the brain and how to change your brain and rewire your brain. And that was a big moment for me.
So you go to South Africa, you learn how to, what you were saying, code?
Yeah,
Coding
so,
is what you got yourself into. You have a creative background, you have a spirituality background, you have a business mind background. People listening are like, okay, Kendall does everything. Where are you focusing your time? I know you, we'll get into you combine everything together. But talk about South Africa in that moment, because that was really random. You're in South Africa, you're learning iOS coding. Why?
So for me, I am lucky I was raised this way. I have never been the one to like pick one passion to be like, okay, this is what I'm passionate about and this is what I'm going to stick to. And if I don't stick to it, it's a failure. Like, I think with our society, we often think that when you pick something, you have to stick to it. For me, it's like, okay, I want to be able to understand multiple things and I want to be able to experience multiple things and not have to stick to just one. So for me, what got me into iOS engineering was I was a marketing intern at Tinder, actually. Funny enough.
No wonder she's swiping. Tinder.
Yeah, working at Tinder, you have to have a Tinder. So essentially, I was working as a marketing intern, and there was a hackathon where we had to come up with the best product idea. And so I came up with this product idea and learned how to design for it. So design like a prototype for the app, like scrape something together. It was literally not good. But in the end, my product idea was really good, and I pitched it in front of everyone. It won, and the CEO asked me to join the product team as the first product intern. They've never had an intern on the team because that team at the time was very like small, and it was like, no, we focus on this. We don't want any interns. So they hired me as an intern, and I got to learn product design. This is when I added my graphic design minor at USC, and started getting into product design. So I was working at Tinder for all of my junior year. And that summer, I really wanted to learn iOS app development just so that I could have like the background and understanding to be able to know like what functionally works with product design, just to be a more well-rounded product designer. Because at this point, I thought I was going to go into product design after college, which I did for a little bit, but I thought this was my dream, was to like climb the corporate ladder. I was going to work at Tinder or work at some other app and become like the CMO or this whatever. It's like work my way up in an app world was like my dream, and I started to go through with that after college. But
What was your major? Like your main major?
International relations, global business marketing.
Okay, so kind of like
Yeah.
combining everything.
Yeah.
That is I don't know a girl that kind of does everything that you do all together. You are one of a kind. But
When you travel, you meet a lot of them.
That is true. So you're traveling, you've already been to Paris, now you go to South Africa, and now you get into coding, you have a creative backstyle, you are now graduating SC, joining the rest of the USC class, which USC, in my opinion, has a rule of everyone tries to get good jobs, just like any of the elite schools out there. It's very mentally draining for everyone. It was mentally draining for me.
Oh, yeah.
And people expect for you to work for a humongous company. Your mindset went that way for a year. And you did work for a company right out of the bat, but your mindset kind of changed. You realized that there was more opportunities working for yourself, doing entrepreneur activities. Explain to everyone 1 year out of college and the mindset you changed yourself into.
Yeah, so I was the same way. There's this kind of unspoken pressure at USC. It's literally not written out anywhere. It's so interesting how there is this so unspoken pressure. I remember people updating their Facebooks. I'm excited to announce I am working at this. And it's just so annoying, like eye roll. And I remember at the time I was so excited. All I wanted to do was work for a big company like Google, Facebook, Instagram. And that was my goal. Like, that's all I wanted to do. And I was talented enough to work at those companies, but I kept applying and kept getting denied. And I was like, what the hell? Like, I am talented enough. I know I can do it, but there was something bigger planned for me. But anyways, I ended up working for a small startup in tech. It was an augmented reality company. It was kind of like TikTok. And so I was their director of marketing starting right off of college because I worked for them. Actually, I started consulting. So I stopped doing internship senior year and I started freelance consulting for companies my senior year. So getting in early before I even graduated. And then I started working for this company halfway through senior year and then already had the job lined up like spring semester. So I knew I was going to be working as the director of marketing right when I graduated. And I was getting paid really well. Like, it was set. Everything was amazing.
Dream job. You're like, I got my job. My mom's proud.
Yes. Living in Hollywood in this amazing floor to ceiling window apartment, with the most amazing views. And everything was great. I was working for them for 6 months. I enjoyed it, but I just realized that working for somebody else's dreams wasn't what I wanted. I was taking on the dreams of everyone else, all the expectations of everyone else at USC, society telling me I needed to work a corporate job and work up the ladder. I thought that's what I wanted. And soon I realized, wait, this isn't what I want. This is what somebody else wants. This isn't for me. And it took me a while to like make the decision to actually go through with it. But I remember thinking like, oh, I just want to have my own freelancing company. Like, that's all I want. And thinking, oh, I need more experience. I can't do it. And then finally I was just like, I'm over this. And I literally remember the day, October 5th, 2018. I quit my job and booked a flight to Bali that night. 2 days later, was on all the way to Bali and literally packed one backpack, no plans, didn't even know where I was staying until I landed, and just like went by day, deciding what I was going to do in Bali.
And it's all by yourself?
All by myself. That was not my first solo trip either, but it was my
so
first big solo trip.
There's a good thing that you told me before. You have very cool parents. If I did that, my mom would, I don't know what she would do. She'd be like, you're on your own. Bye. See ya. Like, majority of the parents in today's American corporate world is get a job, work for a big company, and when you want to move, you find another company. There's not a lot of people out there that are accepting to entrepreneurs and just go-getters.
Yeah.
And I feel like my whole friends group, knowing your friends group and our whole Reach group, everyone's very entrepreneur-like, which is what I love. That is a big risk.
Yeah.
Were you scared? Like, I'm making an income right now, and now, boom, I have no income.
Honestly, I wasn't scared. I mean, leading up to it, yes, but when I finally made the decision, I was like, okay, this is it. I have to make the leap. Like, this is it. And thankfully for my parents, they've raised me to, like, I saw someone talking about this later, but it's okay to quit. Like, I think we're framed like never quit. But my parents raised me like, it's okay to quit. Like, if I was doing, t-ball practice and I didn't like it, they're like, okay, quit, it's fine. Volleyball, oh, you don't like it? Okay, it's fine. Like, they never forced me to do anything. Like, I remember I got mad at them. I was like, why didn't you force me to play piano? They're like, because you didn't want to. I was like, okay, fair. And I'm like very, very grateful for that, because now I can follow my dreams and, go after what I actually want instead of like going after what society expects of me. And I think actually getting into content creation during college, I think helped me to stop caring what other people think, because I used to care a lot, and it's still a thing that I deal with. Everyone deals with it on some different level of caring about people's opinions. And so at that time I cared a lot about my friends' opinions and people at USC's opinions when I was at USC. But then once I was already graduated, already working my full-time job and already doing content creation and growing that on the side of my job, I like grew thick skin from haters online. So I was like, I literally could care less what anyone at USC thinks of me. If they think I'm making a bad decision, like, why should that stop me from following my dreams?
Right.
Like, what is that going to do? What does their opinion of me matter? And I think having that mindset with high school as well, like, I learned how to literally not care what people think. And I still, like, I do not care what people think. And
that's a great mindset to have.
It's hard to...
That's an alpha mentality mindset, and only so many people can think that way. And it's a strong thing to have. If you think that way, you're going to achieve anything that you put your mind to, because you're not scared. And that's the biggest thing what people are fear about, how many amazing ideas out there. Hey, I have this great idea. Why don't you do it? I don't know how to do it. I'm scared. I don't know what people are going to think about it. Oh, it's a good idea, but one guy doesn't like it. That's the mentality where you're like, okay, one person doesn't like it. Who cares? It's my idea. I think it's great. Let's make it happen.
Yeah.
Makes me money. Cool. Not. Let's move on.
So what I would say is, like, a lot of people say that. They say, oh, you just got to not care. But they don't tell you how to not care. And that is the key. So for me, figuring out how to not care was the key. So I'm going to tell you right now, how to not care is when you have a fear come up and you realize, like, okay, you feel it. You have to identify, okay, what am I afraid of right now? Oh, I don't want to quit my job because I'm afraid of what my friends will think. Why am I afraid of that? And you have to, like, find the triggering point. You have to really dig deep and ask yourself, and it's scary. It's scary to face your insecurities. But anything you're procrastinating on, procrastination is simply you avoiding an emotion that you're afraid to face while you're working on something. So procrastinating quitting your job, you're afraid to face that emotion of, like, oh, I'm scared I'm not gonna be good enough. I'm scared I'm not gonna have enough money. I'm scared people are gonna judge me. And so, like, I've always been a journaler and writer, and getting my thoughts on paper has been so crucial for me to succeed. And that's why, like, that's a part of my spirituality as well, is getting that out on paper and being like, okay, writing out all of your fears. Like, I was literally looking through my journal from 2 years ago last night, and I was looking at this thing that I wrote, fear dissolver. And I just made this up. I didn't look it up. I was just like, oh, I'm just going to dissolve these fears. And I wrote out everything I was afraid of. And then I wrote out on the side, like, once you get it out there and say it out loud, get it out of your head, you realize how silly it sounds. And then you can reframe it. So I'd write a reframe. I'll write all my fears, worst case scenarios. And then you rank them by, like, how bad that actually is. And then you write out, like, best case scenarios, and you rank that for how much value it adds. And you realize the worst case scenarios for the fear do not outweigh the best case scenario for actually going after your dreams.
I totally agree.
Yeah. So that was a big game changer for me.
So what about making money? I don't know if you want to talk about this, but you just quit your job. I think people listening are like, okay, so you just quit a full-time job that's paying you really well. You just traveled. You have some money saved up from that job for after a year. What is the goal on how to make income, how to make, passive income? You have a content creation page. You've built that whole brand up for yourself. You got into podcasting. You got into all this stuff. How are you making money running your own business in terms of for yourself?
So when I first quit, I basically just went to solo travel to figure out what I wanted to do. I wasn't making money at the time. I had a bunch saved up from college, all the money I saved up from college, all the money I saved up from my job, obviously. And I wasn't too worried about making money because I knew I wasn't going to be there long term traveling. I was like, okay, 1 to 2 months max. Like, I'm going to be staying in cheap hostels, budgeted it out. Like, didn't really even think too much about budgeting. It was just like I just found cheap hostels and did it. And my mindset has changed a lot with money. It's gone from being like not worrying about money and then being really like lack mindset. So I'll get into that. So essentially, yes, I quit my job, traveled for 2 months, solo backpacking, and then I come back and I essentially manifested a whole freelancing agency for myself. I did not reach out to any clients. They all found me through my manifestation practices that I was doing. And it was actually nothing crazy. I just thought the thought, like, I want to have a freelance marketing agency when I get back. I want to get paid this much and I want to work for these companies, or I want people to reach out to me. Got back and people started reaching out to me. My old company reached out to me and they're like, hey, we want to hire you as a consultant and we want to pay you the same amount and you can work from home and work whatever hours you want. This was before working from home was normal. And I was like, oh my God, I didn't even ask for that. And they just gave it to me. And then 2 other clients reached out and they're like, hey, we heard you're into marketing. Like, I got referred to you from a friend. We want to hire you. And so boom, had 3 clients right when I got home, started my marketing agency immediately. All because I just set my mindset. I wrote down exactly what I wanted, went there, and through networking and through hard work, I was able to get those clients. So I was working for myself, having my freelancing agency, working for 3 different companies for pretty much half of the next year after I quit my job. And after that, I was just like kind of getting over it. I was like, I still don't want to work for other people. Like, I'm working for myself, but I'm still working for other companies. And I realized I wanted to really get into spirituality and make my name known by, writing books, getting into a podcast, just working on my personal brand. So I kind of slowly started to wean off the clients and started focusing on myself. That's when my lack mindset came in, because I was living in Hollywood still, paying $2,000 a month for rent still, not making money. I mean, I was making money here and there from collaborations, but it was nothing consistent. At the beginning, I wasn't worried. I was like, oh, I have a lot in savings. Like, I'm just going to figure out what I want to do. Started working on my brand. You just don't make money right away when you start your own business.
Right.
That's not like a client-based business. And near the end of that year, I started to get really nervous. I was like, oh my God, I'm spending all of my savings, but I don't want to leave LA. Like, I love my apartment, and I just had so many things holding me back. And so I just sat down and I literally wrote a list of pros and cons of like living in LA and where else I'd want to move. And I realized I wanted to move to Bali. I was like, I was just in Bali. Like, that's what started my traveling in the first place, like the solo traveling. I was like, I want to move back there. And so after some thinking, I decided to give up the apartment in LA and move to Bali with my boyfriend, convinced my boyfriend to quit his job. And we started a business together before we left for Bali, an online e-commerce business. And it started taking off right before we left. So we're like, okay, we feel comfortable moving to Bali. Moved to Bali, and we're there for 3 months before the pandemic hit and we had to go home. But it was definitely an amazing time, and some fears we needed to get over with being afraid of money, but just releasing the things that were holding me back and tying me down money-wise, like bills, that freed up a lot. And then also just trusting that the money will come in freed up my money mindset as well.
That is, man, you're living the dream. I'll just say that. You are living the dream. So speaking of just moving to Bali, what were some of the consequences of taking your work on the road? I think it's great to work overseas, but now you have to do with time changes. One of my good friends actually moved to Australia. He has an e-commerce business also. His hours are flip-flop. He's basically sleeping during the day, kind of, and then working in the middle of the night because most of his clients are on the West Coast and the time change. Did you have any is your business like that? You're working with clients in that term aspect at different time changes, or more of an e-commerce selling ideas? Like, what is your business?
Yeah, so it wasn't like that. Luckily, we could work at any time of the day. And at first, it was a lot of hands-on work, like starting it from the ground up. And it was a lot of work from the start, like working multiple hours a day in Bali when we could be at the beach. But still, it wasn't like a 9 to 5. Like we'd wake up, we'd go do our yoga, we'd come back, we'd work during the day, we'd end around like 3 or 4, we'd go to the beach and watch the sunset. So it was still like really chill, but we wanted to cut it down to even working less. So we started hiring virtual assistants to help us with customer service. So ours wasn't anything client-based. We realized we don't want to be client-based. We want to just work for ourselves, because then we only have us to answer to. And if we mess up, like it's only us that we have to deal with, not someone else's, another boss that's upset at us or anything like that. So we did a few client-based things here and there, but nothing like a long term. It was just like one-off projects. What I would do for clients, like one-off, like he's a professional photographer and videographer, and I do like the ideation and the creative directing and editing. And so we would do stuff like that for other brands, but it was like one-off projects.
Right.
But for the most part, it's all our own e-commerce businesses online, like companies we've started online. And now it's pretty much passive. Like we've hired a lot of people to do the work for us, and we kind of are the managers overseeing it. And right now, like that's just, for us, that was a means to an end, like making us money so that we can live our passion. For me, it's like life isn't about making money and like being addicted to making money. It's like money is a tool. I see money as a tool for me to get where I want to be. Like I have all of these aspirations and goals when it comes to, you know, spreading my different messages about spirituality and being able to live your life more free, manifestation, all of that through social media that necessarily doesn't make you money at first. So we wanted to find a way to like make sustainable income like consistently, while we could pursue these other business ideas and goals that aren't going to make us money at first.
That is wow. Just wow. Man, you should be a mentor to a lot of people. I'll just say that. And it's one of the biggest things I think you want to get into over this last year was a podcast.
Yes.
And that was probably the most challenging thing to start, because you didn't know where to start. I mean, you had ideas where to start, which you were saying, but it's about just going for it, letting the world know. And you don't have a podcast like myself, which is have guests on and have them speak. It's all about you. And the podcast is called Kendall's World. And it's talking about your spirituality and everything that you go through mentally and your mindset. Let everyone know what the podcast is, what your goal for it, why they should listen to it, and how do you produce it? Because it's a very interesting thing on how you produce your show.
Yes. So I launched Kendall's World on my birthday, on my 25th birthday, April 22nd. On Earth Day, I thought it was a fun ring because like Kendall's World, I like traveling. Earth Day, which is my birthday, which makes sense why I love traveling so much. It took me a while to figure out, like I kind of knew at baseline what I wanted my podcast to be about, spirituality and sharing my advice, but I had a lot of mental blockages like preventing me from starting my podcast. Just a lot of fears, self-doubt, you know, around different types of things, not necessarily what people would think, but how if I would be able to like show up for that. And it took me a long time to get from like me deciding I wanted to do a podcast and starting to ideate and like decide, like come up with names, come up with ideas, and it literally probably about a year until I actually launched it, which I was fine with because I'm so not into rushing things. Like if it's not the right time for you, it's not the right time. And I'm very more go with the flow, go with your energy, go with the space that you're at. Because if you rush into something and you start, like literally one of my first podcast ideas, the name for it, I don't even remember, but it would have been terrible. And the idea, and like if I would have gone with that, I don't want to have to rebrand 50 times.
Right.
I would rather just get it right in the beginning. And you know, there is a limit. You don't want to be too perfectionist. So I have to find the balance of being not too perfectionist and also like, you know, crafting something that I'm proud of. So it took me a while, but it was literally after my Peru trip. I went to Peru earlier this year, just decided on a whim. I was tired of living at home during the pandemic.
Another let's just send it moment.
Yes, literally send it.
Book the flight and off we go.
I was reading a book called The Celestine Prophecy, which is an amazing book. It's kind of like The Alchemist, if anyone's read it, where it's this kind of more fiction-based spiritual book, but way more deep, and there's like 5 books, and everyone should read it. But this guy, he was journeying in Peru and did like a self-discovery journey in Peru, and I was like, I've always wanted to go to Peru. I think now's my time. So I literally looked at flights. I found out my friend had just moved there, so I was like, hey, where are you living in Peru? She's like, oh, I'm living in this city. You should come. I was like, okay, booked a flight. I literally didn't even research the city. I just trusted her that it was the right place because she's into the same stuff as me, spirituality. She teaches Kundalini yoga and mantras and meditation. So I was like, okay, if she likes it, I'm going to like it. So booked a flight, went there, zero plan, ended up staying 2 months, did a yoga teacher training, did a lot of self-inquiry, a lot of different ceremonies to just discover what I wanted to do and get all of those ideas out. And during the time, actually, this is what gave me an idea for my podcast. During that time, I just started to randomly record voice notes. I would have a lot of spiritual insights, like during hikes.
You're like the Billie Eilish of podcasts.
Oh, did she do that?
And she has a lot of voice memos.
I have so many voice memos. I don't know how I'm ever going to go through them all. But literally, whenever I would just get this idea, like I call them high vibe thoughts, where it just like zoom, like all of a sudden I get this idea and I'm like, oh my gosh.
Like brain pop.
Pretty much. And so I'll just
like the Jimmy Neutron days. Brain pop.
Maybe that's why I loved Jimmy Neutron. Anyways.
Great show.
I would get out my phone and just start recording. And I would just be like sitting outside watching the stars recording. And I had all these like ideas for podcasts. I would sit down and do guests, this. And I'm like, why don't I just do that? Why don't I just make these are kind of like my journaling, but in like an voice memo. Instead of writing it down, I just journal with voice memo because my hand is too slow for my brain. So I'll just like have all these thoughts come through. So I'm like, why don't I just make that my podcast where I'm just sitting down and like flowing with it? So that's essentially what my podcast is me channeling thoughts. What I like to call it is channeling thoughts from my highest self. I get into this meditative state and I sit down. I have zero clue what I'm about to talk about and no plan. And I just sit down, close my eyes and allow it to flow. And before that, it's like literally 2 hours of a meditation ritual. I'll literally turn some good music on. I'll like get really vibey, get my crystals out, get my sage out, not my sage, my Palo Santo. I'll get my candles out. I'll journal. I'll literally not force it. I'll just take it slow. I'll dance, I'll sing, I'll do like all of these different like spiritual things that I learned in Peru, maybe some yoga.
It's like your mom walks in or your boyfriend, like, what's going on in here?
They're used to it. It's a normal occurrence. I'd put a sign, do not disturb. But essentially, I just like...
Jumping on the bed. What's going on?
No, essentially, it's just about like releasing the inner child, like allowing yourself... Like, when's the last time you just, had that playful mindset where you just did whatever you felt like in the moment? Like, as kids, we used to do that. We would just run around the room, do whatever. So I do that in a more adult way, I guess, like doing it in my version of like, I'll just like do whatever I want in the moment and be like, okay, I feel like, dancing to this song, doing ecstatic dance, which is something I do frequently in the spiritual community. That's very normal. To some people who are not used to this stuff, it may sound pretty crazy, but this is how I get myself into more of a relaxed mindset. Because before, when I would try to record my podcast and have like a strict structure, it would just be so bad. I'd be fumbling over my words, have no idea what to say. I would like get really hooked on perfectionism, like, oh, I didn't say this line correctly. So I just let all of that go. And I was like, you know what? No, like, I'm just gonna like vibe for like an hour and a half. And then whenever I feel like it, I'll pull out the mic and I'll record. So I get everything
honestly,
set up.
that is the best way to record anything. Like me being a musician, I've had times my mom comes in, gets the record button, records, and I have a song I just wrote. I mess up. I'd say, let's do it again. Mess up. She leaves the room. Second she leaves the room, I do it. Perfect, most beautiful thing you ever hear.
Yes.
She'll walk back in the room and be like, I don't know why you can't do that in front of me. I'm like, because I'm trying to make it perfect for the video.
Yeah.
When you're trying to make anything perfect, you mess up.
Totally.
My public speaking class, in one of my classes, my first couple of years of college, I didn't memorize anything. We had like, memorize speeches, and my friends would be like, oh, are you practicing for your speech? I'm like, no. Like, why? I'm like, who practices a speech? Just go up there and speak. As long as you understand the whole topic, it just flows out. It's more natural.
Yeah.
And then my friends would be like, you are nuts. I said, it's just, why? It's like people freak out about doing a speech, what you're going to say. It's just like you're saying, like if you force yourself to like this, I don't really I have planned out what we kind of want to talk about, but nothing's forced.
Yeah.
That's the best way to make content, is not forcing anything and just being yourself. And you're 100% speaking the facts. Just put your mindset in the right spot.
Yeah. And I think it is like, now that you mentioned like in the way of a more creative flow, like I think so I was never like super musical growing up. I did singing a lot, and I actually want to get back into singing because it's something I'm passionate about. But I come at my podcast not from like a business perspective. Like a lot of people, have the whole setup and they have everything planned, and yours is a lot more conversational than most podcasts. I feel like everything's like super planned, or like this is the script. And I come at it in a way that's like creative, like someone who like writes a song. They have to get in flow. Like getting in flow is like another term for what I call it channeling, like channeling my highest self is what I call it. Like there's different terms for it. Getting in flow, getting in the zone. Literally, there's so many words for it, but everyone has their own way of getting in the zone, getting in flow. So I've just found my way of getting in flow, and I do that, and each time it's taking shorter and shorter. So where before it took like 2 hours to get in the flow, now it's only taking an hour. Now I can snap in whenever I want. It just depends on like where I'm at mentally.
So speaking about your flow game, what is the process of your flow game? I know you kind of explained it. What is a 5-second step process of how you get into the flow for people that want to know how to get into the flow?
I think it's different depending on my mood, but for podcasts specifically, I literally play music, take a bath, and literally just chill. It's like self-care. I prioritize self-care.
Put a face mask on and relax.
Yes. So it's just like calming myself down, like from the day. So I always record my podcast at night when I'm about to fall asleep. So everyone's quiet in the house. No one's disturbing me. And during the day, I'm thinking business mind, working on stuff, checking off the to-do list. At night is when I can get into my spiritual mindset. And that's what this whole podcast is about spirituality. So of course I need to get in a spiritual mindset. So I take a bath, come out, just like slowly do a self-care routine, like my face routine, whatever. And then I just sit down. I don't have like a specific routine. My routine is doing whatever I want in the moment, whatever feels right, and not forcing anything, but also like fully experiencing each moment and just being there. And part of it is journaling, listening to good music. Good music is always, I have to listen to good music for it right before. So I'll listen to good music for like an hour and vibe. I'll either dance, I'll either lay down, meditate, whatever it is. And then I get the mic out and then I just speak and I close my eyes and everything just flows out. And it's kind of like, it's based on whatever lessons I've learned maybe that week. So obviously it's like based off something that's been going on in my life, but it's all about mindset, how to reframe your mindset. Some of the episodes have been, reframing your mind from have to do to get to do. So we often have this mindset where like, oh, I have to do this tomorrow, I have to do that. But how can we make our life more exciting is reframing our mindset to be like, no, I get to do this. And so like tips on how to actually live a more fulfilling life and be excited for life. Because spirituality for me, there's a lot of different definitions and a lot of different...
My definition, what is it? What is spirituality?
Exactly. So
it's
for
a ton
me,
of things.
I mean, there's so many different things and so many different meanings, and it changes over your life as well, depending on what's needed. But a simple definition for me is just living your life to the fullest and the best way that you can, being your highest self and working towards your highest self actively. And whether that means needing self-care, whether that means like working on, negative behaviors or negative patterns in your life or cutting out bad habits, or whether that means like randomly booking a trip and just go having fun. Like literally to me, living in a spiritual life is living your life to the fullest and having fun. So that's how I approach my podcast is I want to have fun with it. I don't want it to be a chore. I want it to be fun. I want it to be a part of my weekly routine. And yeah, that's...
So what about editing? I mean, my editing process is, oh my gosh, I got 5 this whole week and it's going to take me probably a month to edit all these. But what is your editing process? We discuss. Mine is, we have footage, which hopefully this camera doesn't tune out. You don't do footage. You do just your voice. It's a lot easier process, but different process. What is your editing technique? What do you use? You use your phone? What do you use?
So luckily my podcasts have been pretty short. So I like to keep my podcast around 10 to 15 minutes. I think of them more as like quick motivational speeches people can listen to like on their way to work or when they're getting ready, like a pep talk for the day, like an affirmation they can listen to in the morning. And so I keep it short and sweet, especially because my audience is Gen Z, and these days people's attention spans are low. Like no one really gets through a full podcast unless you're driving somewhere. But a lot of people are at home and they're working, so they don't really have time to listen to full episodes or watch full YouTube videos. So for me, I keep it short, simple, sweet, so it's a lot easier to edit. And because this is honestly something I was worried about, like coming into I thought I was going to mess up a lot. But honestly, because I'm doing it from a state of flow, there's hardly any editing I need to do. Like it's all just one shot and done. And everything is exactly how I want it. And if there is something I mess up on, I will like take a deep breath and go back to where I messed up and then start from that tone of voice, and just it's a seamless cut. And if I'm thinking, so for example, if I don't know what to say next, I will just take a deep breath and take a pause and allow myself to pause for as long as I need, because I know I can cut that out. I don't have a guest here looking at me like, what are you doing? Why are you pausing for so long? So I can take the time I need and go slowly with it and then cut that out. But I do kind of like to keep the dramatic pauses in some of the parts. So I use something called Descript, which is something everyone should get on.
I think you told me about this.
It's an amazing, I don't know, this will save you so much time. I'm so glad I got this before I even started editing my podcast.
Is that the caption, Descript?
Yeah, so I essentially, I record my podcast, go to sleep. The next day I wake up and I edit it right away so it's fresh in my mind. And then I record, depending on my mood, sometimes I record an intro and outro after, or sometimes I include it during like the one shot and done, depending on how tired I am, because I stay up pretty late to do this. So the next day I sit and edit it, and maybe it takes me like 30 minutes to edit just the podcast part. And I do edit it into videos, but I don't have like my video of my face talking. I just
with the
have
animation,
like the animation
and,
and just like a quick, or I like do a compilation of my travel videos and have like the motivational part, like it's 15 seconds, and do that. Eventually I will get into doing video, but I'm still starting off, so I didn't want to put too much pressure on myself to do it all at once. I'm a big fan of like gradually easing yourself into things, because if you make a task too hard for yourself, you're never going to get it done. And that's something I learned from Atomic Habits, like how to build habits is to build it sustainably. Don't say, oh, tomorrow I'm going to wake up at 5 a.m., stop drinking coffee, stop drinking alcohol, do yoga, do this, and add all of these new behaviors on that you're not used to. Like, you're going to blow up and lose your steam. Like, you're not going to be able to do any of that.
It's not human.
Yeah, so it's slowly building on the habits. So for me, what was preventing me from starting my podcast was the need for it to be perfect. And I knew that recording would add that kind of fear block, because you have to worry about something watching you, and you have to worry about what you look like, and if you're presentable, and if it looks good for and I just didn't want to have to think of those until like I got more comfortable with it. And as it goes on, I think I will add video. I don't know when that's going to happen. I'm just going to let it happen. But going back to the editing process, Descript, it's an amazing software that you essentially just add the audio in, and it transcribes the whole thing. And so say if I say the word I could scroll through it, highlight the word and strike it through, and then it takes it out of the audio. So I don't have to take the audio out through, I don't know how people do podcasts without this.
You have to pay for this?
So there's a free version without the transcribing, but of course you're going to want the transcribing, but it's pretty affordable. I can't remember the exact.
So like per minute, or?
I think you probably buy, for hours, you like buy in bulk of hours.
Oh man, this would be expensive for my show.
Or it's like monthly. I can't remember, but I think it's 100% worth it, because say I want to like skip to an area where I knew I talked about Paris, for example. I can literally keyword search Paris, and it's kind of like a Google Doc. Drops you down, you see it, I can highlight it and
like
move it.
The command find button.
Yeah, and I can move that to a new project to make like a shorter snippet out of it. Or if I know that this section I don't want to have in, I can either delete it or I can strike it through, which I like the strike through because you can always undo it. You don't have to because deleting stuff is risky, because then you're like, oh, what if I lose it? With this, you can just strike through, and then you can bring it back if you want. You can see, oh, does it sound better with or without it? There's so many amazing tools within this, game changer.
That is nuts.
I tried to tell you about it before, and I could tell you were hesitant. I was like, just wait till he tries it. He's gonna.
I think I'm gonna have to try it, because my thing is, I have, for instance, my process. I have this. This could probably be an hour, whatever it is, hour, 50 minutes, whatever it is. I'll take this. I'll put it into Ableton, my music software. I'll get my music. I'll get my outro music. I'll get any sponsor stuff. I'll put the audio format in there. I'll go in and I'll listen to the whole podcast. I'll be like, okay, if there's any bad segments, I'll just chop it out and mix it together. Export it, put it on Anchor, type up my stuff, out. I think the audio part's actually the easiest. Comes in the video, I put the video into Premiere, I listen to the whole thing again, I chop out anything I don't like, then I'll chop it up into segments. I'll click 5 segments from our talk, I'll click 5 tonight that I think are the best way for people to share around and are most interesting. I'll make those into 5 separate sequences. The full podcast, I'll add animation things and pop-up things, and your name will pop up in front of your face, all these cool little animations. I'll export that, or render it, which will take a whole hour. Then I'll export it again, which will take another hour. That will go on YouTube. The little clips, I'll then do it 2 ways. I'll do the clips that we'll put on YouTube. I'll do the other clips. I'll make it into 1080 by or 1920 by 1080, whatever the vertical
Yeah, for
format is.
TikTok,
I'll do
or-
that for TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and then I have a whole backdrop and background that I do. Then I have to do the titles for each of the 5 stuff.
Yeah.
It's a whole process.
That's why I'm not doing video yet. It's
So-
just a lot of work. It sounds like you need to outsource. I think that's the biggest I'm still learning how to outsource, because I feel like you might be the same way as me. Like, we want to have full control over the content.
Right.
But there comes a time where, like, you cannot continue on unless you delegate. It's not going to be sustainable for, like, long term. And just finding someone that you trust and, like, you can train to be like, this is what I'm looking for. Or even with, this is why I think Descript would be so good for you, is because then you can go through and highlight your favorite parts and then show them that and be like, hey, this is what I want for the video. Can you, like, go edit that for me?
Right.
And so that's what I'm going to do when I start doing video. I'm going to I already have a video editor for my YouTube channel, because I was editing all my YouTube videos before and I was like, I can't do this anymore. Taking it off my plate.
I think it's so
Outsource
fun
that.
to edit. I just think the most annoying part is actually the Instagram and LinkedIn stuff, the vertical format, because
Yeah.
I need captions for that. YouTube, you don't need captions. They already have their AI captions in there.
Totally.
The vertical format, Instagram, I think TikTok just added captions, but everything else doesn't. In my captions, I have a guy in the Philippines I found on Upwork, and he'll do it for $5, and he'll do 5 of my videos, which are, at least I chop it up to 4 minutes each, and he'll get it back to me in 24 hours. It's probably like 90% right, not 100% perfect, and I still have to go in there and correct the grammar. And then that's it. That's pretty much the most timing, is the
Yeah.
captions and re-listening to segments over and over and over and making sure everything's perfect. And I'm a perfectionist. I think it's fun. That's why I don't do a podcast every day. I get it when I can get a guest on.
Yes.
Makes it more meaningful to actually put the effort in. But you are right. Maybe at one point, I'm already doing too much. I got podcasts here, and I got to do a championship rugby game on TV for CBS on Saturday and Sunday.
Exciting.
Like, I don't know. I just find time and I just do it.
For me, I still am that way. I'm trying to, like, grow out of that part. But I realized that it's like, you have to learn where your strengths are and where your limits are. And of course, you're talented at video editing. I'm talented at video editing. I have fun with it. But it comes a point where my time is more useful put somewhere else.
Right.
So for me, I've realized, like, if I'm going to be spiritually channeling, that takes a lot of energy. I need to be on it. I need to make sure that I'm feeling mentally healthy. I'm feeling mindful. And so for me to, like, spend hours editing and getting frustrated over the little things, like, that drains me. That makes me not able to, show up and actually record the content. So for me, content is most important for me to do. And I need to, like, outsource the rest that I could do, but, I need to just release control and be like, okay, it's not beneficial for me to do that.
Right. So what about the whole Instagram and all the editing that you do, your travel videos? Is that your boyfriend doing that? Is that yourself? Are you outsourcing that?
So Instagram and TikTok, I've found a way to it's pretty easy for me.
Right.
So it's come up, like, that is so easy for me that it's not even an issue. YouTube, I've outsourced. So all my YouTube videos, because they're so much longer and my computer is so slow, I need to get a new one at this stage, that it just takes so long. And there's
And it freezes and quits.
Yeah, and there's video editors who are better than me, and I would rather pay to, like, free up my time. But for Instagram and TikTok, I just quickly edit it in my phone or on Final Cut. So that stuff is, like, super easy. But eventually, I'm actually starting to think of outsourcing a lot more, like Instagram stuff, a lot of TikTok stuff, because I scroll way too much on TikTok to find ideas. And for me, that's just not productive for my mental health. Like, I end up being on TikTok way too long, and comparison is a thing. Like, it just, things come up what you don't want to see. Like, you don't know what you're going to see on TikTok, and something could upset you. So I've actually even considered hiring someone to be, like, a trend person, a trend spotter, who they can scroll on TikTok for me and tell me what to do, because at this point, like, scrolling on TikTok is not beneficial for me anymore.
It's also random too, whatever
Yeah.
your interest is. So mine's different from yours. Mine shows girls' butts and bikinis. I don't know why, but that's what mine
Because
is.
that's what you're liking.
Hey, I don't.
It shows you what you like.
And, like, dad jokes and comedy. That's what mine is.
Yeah,
and
mine's
yours is probably
literally spirituality,
spiritual.
travel, spirituality. Which is hard because I love watching the videos, but sometimes you get a random video that you don't want to see,
That is true. A lot of bad stuff on TikTok. I'll just say I don't know how it's not censored. So, Kendall, you've traveled all over the world with your boyfriend. You've made all these cool videos. You've been safe. I mean, you guys are still dating. He takes care of you. But you also have experience traveling by yourself. And in this world, this crazy world where America is changing, but all around the world, being a woman and traveling by yourself as a girl traveling by herself, what are some tips for the females out there when they are traveling to look out for or to maybe have on them, or any tips that maybe you don't have to worry about anything?
I think it's good to be aware. So I think I have a really good balance of being subconsciously aware of my surroundings. I think me being in Paris really toughened me up. I have some funny stories from Paris, but having to deal with like, I came from a very safe bubble in Orange County. And going to Paris and living in, a big city by myself, having to walk home after the metro at like midnight, I had to deal with like men harassing me on the street, men trying to steal my purse. Like I literally elbowed a guy in the face once. And I think I just really grew up during that time, and it trained me to be very self-aware of my surroundings. I've always been very aware of my surroundings, like very observant. Like when I'm watching a movie, I'm like, oh, their shirt changed. They weren't wearing that shirt a second ago. So like just my mind is always very observant. And I think it heightened after living in Paris of being constantly observant of my surroundings. And I think just genuinely as women, we are taught to be aware of our surroundings just because of the world we grew up in. So I think because of that, I've always been very safe and have a lot of street smarts. But also, I don't live in fear. So there's a balance, right? Like, you can know the risks. I think it's important to know the risks. Prepare yourself, have your pepper spray. Make sure your bags are all, like, you're wearing the right gear. You're not having your bag wide open on the street. Like, don't be dumb. I think a lot of people get themselves into tough situations because they're not acting smart. And that's for anyone, not just women, but men. I had a friend in South Africa who was literally, like, jumped because he was walking with his backpack in front and holding it and obviously very nervous and scared. Like people can smell fear just like animals can smell fear. Like in South Africa, one of the dangerous streets in the world, Long Street, he literally was held at gunpoint and they stole all of his stuff. So it's not just for women, it's for men too. It's like, be smart, be aware of your surroundings. You can be prepared, but also like, don't be afraid. Have your mindset that everything is going to work out the way it's supposed to. Everything's working for me. That's my mindset going in. When I'm going on a trip, I plan trips based off of my intuition. So I go on trips based off where I feel called to go. I don't just randomly go somewhere. For the reason I haven't gone back to Bali since last year. Like, I just don't feel like it's the right time and I'm not going to force it. So when I do go on trips, I have this mindset that I'm going for a spiritual reason. Something is meant to happen to me. I am meant to learn a lesson. I am being guided by the universe, God, spirit, highest self, whatever you want to call it. I am being guided there. So there's a reason why I'm going and I trust. I just have a lot of trust in myself, in my spirit guides and people in the situations I put myself in, that I'm going to be safe. And I can honestly say, like, for the most part, for all my travels, I have felt very, very safe traveling solo as a woman. Like, the few, moments where I've felt unsafe, nothing crazy unsafe, but just like, annoying people who are just being rude. And I just like leave the situation, right? But for the most part, I've always met amazing people while traveling because of my expectation. I'm going in there thinking something amazing is going to happen to me, and it does. And obviously there's a difference between, getting your hopes too high and having too high of expectations, but having expectation that everything good is going to happen for you, but also like going with the flow. If something does happen, I see it as a lesson. I'm like, okay, how can I learn through this? I don't think, oh my God, this is happening to me. Like, what am I going to do? I have to go home. Like, I see it as a lesson to push through. And especially my first solo travel trip to Bali. I remember when I first got there, I got really sick. And the first couple nights, I was so sick and I was crying and I wanted to go home. And then I was like, mental reframe. I'm learning a lesson here, because I was way more type A back then, way more control freak, wanted to have everything go my way, and I was really pushing myself out of my comfort zone by going to Bali with zero plans. So of course I'm going to be triggered 24/7. What am I doing next? What am I doing next? Oh my God, oh my God. And that was when I was like, okay, this time in my life, I'm pushing myself to be more go with the flow attitude and to not be so type A and need to control everything. And although it was tough, I pushed through it and I learned the lessons and I ended up having an amazing time. One of the times I like literally met up with strangers from Instagram. We booked a trip to another island, didn't even meet them before we booked this trip, planned everything, went there, had the most amazing time because we were all in that same travel mindset of just excited to go there. And just to note, when you're traveling, like staying in hostels,
I was just about to ask you that. I'm like, what is the hostel experience? Because my dad's gone through it. My friends have gone through it. I've gone through it in Amsterdam and all these other places. What is it like being in a hostel, meeting random people? and then actually most of the time you meet them, you start traveling together.
Yeah, it's amazing. I think it's because it's almost like that freshman dorm syndrome. You know, I don't know if you've heard of this, but when you go to your freshman dorm, everyone is friends immediately because you're all in the same boat. You're brand new, you have no idea what's going on, you're just excited to be there. That's the same mentality when you're going to a hostel and you're all traveling. And everyone there has either like quit their job, starting a new phase in their life, or they're already digital nomad travelers. So everyone you're going to meet is already very open and friendly and ready to meet people. So you don't have to be afraid of like, how do I talk to people, how to make friends, because everyone's already in that mindset. So it's not like LA. Like, of course, the mindset in LA, if you go up to someone, they're like, what do you want? Like, I have that mindset in LA too. When I go to different places, my mindset shifts based on the zone just for safety reasons, but I try to force myself out of that. I try to have a travel mindset wherever I go because it leads to more opportunities and it shakes people up and people just don't expect it, especially in LA. But when you're traveling, like especially in a hostel, people are just so warm and welcoming, and you know, you got to book the right hostels. You can have a terrible hostel experience if you go to a place that is poorly run, has bed bugs, or you got to check the vibe of the place. There's a thing I like called hostelworld.com, and you can see all the hostels and all the ratings. I usually like to book something like a 9 rating and above, and I read all the reviews and I read
Bougie. No, I'm joking.
No, like literally, because if it's like below that, there's been cases of bed bugs or like, you know, creepy people staying there. And I've literally stayed in a hostel with like a bunch of twin size beds and they're all dudes living there. And at first I was like, oh my God, this is so weird. Like, I don't know about this. But then I ended up becoming really good friends with one of the guys, and he was so respectful. He was like my older brother, and we traveled all around Thailand together, and we're still friends to this day. But, you know, check out the ratings. And one of the times I stayed at a hostel I didn't really like too much because it was like really, it's like different types of party hostels, right? There's one that's more like, you know, travel where there's different types of people, so you get to like experience different cultures, and people are a little more, I don't know, I don't want to use the word sophisticated, but I guess that would be the word, versus like a strictly party hostel where it's rowdy and like gross. I don't like staying in those because that's like, I'm out of that phase of my life. Even at 22,
It's the
I
party
was like,
hostel.
there's different types though. It's really hard to describe. I can't fully describe it, but there's this one party hostel I stayed at where it was just a bunch of like 18-year-olds from the UK and Australia just wanting to get wasted every night. And there's nothing wrong with that, but the energy they had was just like, yeah, let's get wasted. And they're just like all over the place, and I'm like, I don't want to do that. So I ended up staying at a different hostel because I just wasn't in that mindset at the time. So just understanding when you're traveling, this is my biggest tip when you're booking a trip for solo traveling. What is your intention with this? Are you going because you want to go have fun and party, which there's nothing wrong with that. I did that for a bit. Or are you going for like a spiritual awakening and you want to learn more about yourself? Okay, write out what your intention is. What do you want to gain? Book hostels, book places with that. Maybe you want to be completely alone and you book a yoga retreat. That's, you know, totally fine too. You don't have to stay in a hostel if you don't want to.
Right.
But if you want to go meet people and explore like a more outgoing side of yourself, I would say stay in a hostel, look at the ratings, just make sure like they literally have like types of vibes, like people will like click the type of vibe, and so you can look like party, or maybe it's more like bougie, or maybe it's more yoga focused. Like one of the hostels I stayed in Bali was like considered the #1 hostel on Hostal World for one of the years, and it literally looked like an amazing hotel. The rooms all had like marble. I stayed in a room with 4 girls and I like became really close with them. They had free yoga every morning.
Wow.
Food was included. They had a pool, and they had like family dinner every single week. And then you would go out bar hopping with people. And it was like, you know, more chill. It wasn't like rowdy party hostel. Or you would go like, they would have excursions where you'd go like hike in the rice paddies. And it was just an amazing experience. And you would never guess it was hostel because it was so beautiful.
And talking about amazing experience, I was going to say this a lot earlier, but you just reminded me. Your trip to Peru, you and your boyfriend, I mean, you were there first and your boyfriend came after. Would you meet people that then had like a yoga instructor and then had a class that then you got your yoga certificate to be a teacher and like something random like that, which I know it did happen, and you're posting videos all day of you learning how to do the yoga poses or teach whatever they were teaching. You're going to explain what type of yoga that was. And now you're able to teach it and you got your certificate. Explain that, because that is some traveling story. That were you planning on doing that when you were going there, or that just come about?
Yeah, I was not planning on that. That was it was a solo trip, And I was going more for spiritual intentions. Like the Bali trip was more because I just wanted to meet people and challenge myself to go solo, which that actually wasn't even my first solo trip. My first solo trip was to Portugal. Senior year, I won a trip to Portugal and then went to, all over Europe. Well, that was different though. But like these are the two big solo trips. So for Peru, I definitely had, spiritual intentions, and I literally just placed my intention. So for me, it's like I like to place an intention and not plan, because I trust that everything is going to go with the flow. If I plan something too tightly, then I could miss out on something that was meant for me. Like if I say, oh no, I have to be at this hotel by this date, I could miss out on meeting someone I was supposed to meet that could have changed my life. So for me, I like having a general idea of the things I want to do. Like I research, like, oh yeah, I want to check out this place, I want to check out that place, I want to stay here, or I want to do this. Like I have an idea, but I don't book anything, and I just go and I let things unfold, because things will happen to you magically, like synchronistically. You'll be meeting people and you'll be like, oh my god, like this person, that person. It feels like magic when you're traveling and you have that mindset, because things just start to click together and you feel like the universe is conspiring for you. And it's such a beautiful thing to experience for the first time. And now I experience that on a daily basis, so it's really fun. But yeah, essentially I went to Peru. I stayed with a friend for like the first week just to get my grounding and decide what I wanted to do. Then I found this hostel actually up in the mountains, and this was
Coolest
not
hostel ever.
It was so
that
amazing.
was super cool. You have to, if anyone wants to go check it out, go on her Instagram and look at what hostel she stayed in.
Yeah, and on my YouTube, I do a full hostel tour. So not all hostels are like dorms. A lot of hostels have private villas or private rooms. So I booked a private villa that was like this tree house basically in the side of a mountain. Well, not a tree house because it was in the mountain, but it had a ladder. So it was 2 stories. The first story you go in and it's like the kitchen underneath, the bathroom, an extra bed, like kind of like a living room. Then you take the ladder up and you're in the bedroom. There's a fireplace. You walk outside.
It's like a little hut.
It's so amazing, and it literally is a Peruvian clay hut is what I was staying in. And it was it was really high up the mountain, so these stairs, it took me like 10 minutes just to get up the stairs, just to get to my place. And remind you, like it is almost 10,000 feet elevation, so you cannot breathe. You're walking up and you're just heaving. I'd have to take multiple breaks, and you literally feel high after, because you get that like runner's high. You're like, oh my god, like I can't.
And meanwhile, you had a really weird experience. Well, you had a rat, a spider. What it was something happened that instead of killing it, this girl just saves it and puts it outside.
Well, of course. Why would I kill it?
Don't kill animals.
No, it's not going to do anything to me. Well, there was a baby scorpion, but then it like went away, so I just ignored it. And then there was a spider, but I didn't save any of them because they all like disappeared. I just saw them, but there was a giant spider, literally bigger than my hand, and I was like, oh my god. And how
many people would have just like, we're moving out of this place, like we're going to another place? You know how many girls and guys?
That's what you gotta expect while traveling. You're gonna run into bugs, and for the most part, bugs aren't gonna hurt you. And I also like did research to make sure they weren't poisonous, and they weren't. So I'm not gonna kill it unless it's gonna. If I'm gonna
wake up with a spider on your face.
If it's on me, biting me, maybe. But like, I will try my best, go out of my way to save the animal. But anyways, that was only 2 times that there was bugs. But after that, didn't bother me. But yeah, literally making fire every morning, walking out on. I would have to boil my tea in the morning because there was no like water heater. I would just boil my tea, boil the tea, and then boil the milk separately and then froth it, making lattes every morning. And then I would sit out on the hammock and overlook the Peruvian mountainside.
Ooh.
So beautiful.
So beautiful.
Yes.
I wish I would have that. I need to go. I need to go on that trip.
You need to just book a trip, have no plans, and I tell you, you will have the most life-changing experience.
As much as I want a full-time job, I'm doing 6 jobs and with everything I'm doing, but my goal is to travel. I want to, like my company, I can work from anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
My partner and I are like, yo, once it starts establishing a lot of money coming in, if we make it that far, I want to move all over the place. I want to just travel.
Yeah.
Find a wife and travel. So if any girls out there want to travel, I'm right here.
Well, the thing is, that comes after. You're not going to find the wife here.
Of course.
Travel. If you want to find a like-minded person into business and into like digital nomad, you're going to find them while traveling. I mean, I met my boyfriend in Paris. We both come from Huntington Beach, but we didn't meet until Paris. And we're both like-minded. We both love travel. We own a business together. We do everything together, and it works perfectly. because we are both like the same thing. So if you want to meet someone, go travel, push yourself.
I will not be going on The Bachelor, guys.
Don't
Kendall
do that.
will be putting my own application out there.
Don't do that. Go do Bachelor in the real world.
Bachelor and traveling. That's the way they make a new show. Bachelor and travel.
I mean, they pretty much go everywhere when they do it. Why don't you start that show? You go on dating experiences, swipe on Tinder and go on a date and record it. Like, people like record dates on TikTok all the time. Like, that's a trend. And they let them know, like, hey, this is for, like, I'm genuinely interested in dating you, but also, like, this is for TikTok. Like, you can make a show out of it. Do it.
Who knows? Maybe.
You heard it here first.
We'll see. I'll add another 15th thing onto my schedule to make content in. But last question, the question all my fan base already knows about, and everyone answers it completely different. Flashback to your 15-year-old self, which is 10 years ago. Would you still be on the same track you are today in terms of you know, from 15 to now? Is there any mistakes or anything you would have liked to known from what you do right now? You would have probably said, my 15-year-old self would have been great to know this. I would have been progressed already in life. Anything like that?
So I never regret anything in life because I truly believe the mistakes I made led me to who I am today. But I actually do this process where I talk to my older versions of myself. And when I was younger, I used to do this. I would imagine asking questions to my older self. And it's this, actually, I started doing this randomly. And it's actually a process that a lot of people use, and I had no idea. But it's a way to actually, like, communicate with your older self. Not in a weird, like, spiritual time travel way, but in just a way to, like, check in with yourself. So, like, you genuinely imagine telling your younger self advice. And so I do that from time to time. And one of the things I say most often is, like, don't care what other people think. Like, I cared so much what other people thought, especially in high school. You know, you're young, impressionable. As a woman, there's so many insecurities, like looking, you know, the magazines telling you what to look like. Literally, the boys would say the most mean things to me all the time, and I had to deal with it. And it would hurt, you know, but it did toughen my skin. But I would just say, you know, stop caring what people think, because I prevented myself from doing a lot of things because I cared what fucking high schoolers thought, which I literally don't talk to maybe one person from high school. I don't talk to anyone else from high school. And I wish I could like show my younger self where I am at now and how, like, they don't matter. Like, in the long run, their opinions do not matter. And I would have started a YouTube channel a lot longer. I used to make funny videos when I was 12 to 15, and I just never posted them. I posted one, and it, like, got a bunch of views, and I got scared, so I took it down. But I could have...
Oh my... Really?
Yeah, I could have started, and also one of my Instagrams, it blew up in high school. I got, like, 20,000 followers in high school, which back then, that was, like...
Oh, that's a lot.
That's a lot back then.
I'm still not even
And
that.
because of... Well, there's many reasons. Because of insecurities, but also because, you know, in the Christian high school I went to was pretty toxic, and they were like, you're not Christian, you don't love God if you have that many followers on Instagram, you care too much. Like, they would say shit like that, like, or the boy I was interested in be like, I don't want you to have that Instagram. It was just very misogynistic and sexist way of thinking, and they pushed that on me. And so I was like, oh my God, like, I must not love God enough because I care about social media. I'm gonna delete social media. So I deleted, not even like, you know, archive, what is it called when you, like,
archive,
turn it off for a little bit?
Yeah.
I deleted it, and I had grown so much and worked so hard, all because I was posting bikini photos that weren't even sexual. Like, I'm 15. Like, it's
love
like,
your body.
Literally, do not sexualize 15-year-olds. But like that they did, and they made me feel bad for having a social media. And even with YouTube, I just cared so much. And even in college, like, I wanted to start YouTube, but I was so afraid. So I could have started this career a lot sooner, and I could have had, you know, been a lot farther. I could have a lot more followers right now. But, you know, I don't regret anything. Everything happens for a reason. But in the end, I would say, stop caring what people think. And this goes for any age, anyone listening. Don't care what people think, because when you die, like on your deathbed, you're not going to think, oh, I wish I didn't do that because Jessica said this about me. Like, I always place myself in my older mind. Like, what am I going to think when I'm dead? I'm not going to care about this. Like, whenever I'm freaking out about something, I think, oh, I'm not going to care about this. And then I instantly don't care about it. So that's what I would tell my younger self.
That is a lot, and that is amazing. I think a lot of kids can take away from that.
Yes.
And now the best part that I really love, the fun questions.
Yes.
And this is I already know one fun question that you're going to talk about, which is your most insane travel story.
Oh, I have a lot of insane travel stories, but I think one of the most insane ones that's at the top of my head is when I literally saved a full American family from being robbed on the metro. by literally tackling the person who was taking their stuff. So, quick story. I was on the metro, leaving class, had my headphones in. This was already a year into Paris because I stayed actually throughout the summer. So I was like full-blown Parisian. Like, I knew what I was doing. I spoke a little bit of French. Like, I was in the culture. Like, I'd already been there. I was seasoned on the metro. I know how you're supposed to act on the metro, which is chill. You don't bring attention to yourself. And this family comes on. They're obviously American tourist, like 5 or 6 kids. They come on, they're like, come on guys, get on the metro. They're screaming. They bring all of their luggages, like 10 bags, and they're just being really loud. And I'm like, oh God, like looking at them like, oh my God, like they're attracting a lot of attention. And so we're going and they start like just talking really loudly. Dad, how much longer? Like, they're just being so loud and so American. And I see this guy looking at them, like eyeballing them, and I'm like, oh my God, I just got this gut feeling like he's gonna try to grab their bag. So the dad was literally wearing a fanny pack, unzipped, with his wallet, cash, and passport sticking out.
Oh.
Like, he probably thinks like, oh, because it's in my fanny pack, I'm gonna be able to tell, like it's right there, no one's gonna be able to steal from me.
These guys are good.
But
these guys are so good.
I've gotten pickpocketed before.
I've been pocketed once in France.
Yes. And he had to unzip. So what do you expect, right? So I see him eyeballing it, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to keep an eye out for this. I'm not going to do anything yet. Maybe he won't do it. So then they're about to stop, and they're like, oh, guys, like, this is our stop. This is our stop. So he, like, pushes past, like, pretending like, oh, he's just, like, like, getting through the metro, lots of people. And so the guy doesn't notice, and I see him grab the wallet and the passport in one hand, and my instant reflex, I didn't even think about it, grabbed his hand, pulled him back. This is a grown, like, man. Grown big man. I'm an 18-year-old, like, skinny teenager. Literally grab him, grab the stuff. I'm like, he's stealing your stuff. Grab his arm, pull the stuff out, and like hold him there, give him the stuff, and then he breaks free of my like grip and runs out the metro. I thought he was gonna beat me or like punch me or something, but he just ran away from me because I scared him so much. Like 18-year-old me, which I was like so tiny, so like, I guess I was intimidating because of all the street smarts I learned, but I literally grabbed him and like did that.
Wow.
And then I had such an adrenaline rush after. I was like, it's like something came over me, and I was like, and my friend who was there, Rohit, he's like, oh my God, Kendall, it's the best thing I've ever seen.
It's like, if you would take a bullet for me, she just completely took a bullet for a random person in terms of.
Yeah, I guess. It was like literally
not having the money taken.
I didn't even have to think about it. It just happened. And I don't
Good
even know.
citizen award right here. Look at you.
That was like my best story. It's so much. It was fun to reminisce on. I felt like Superwoman after that. Like I literally was just like, oh my God, like so high after that.
That is amazing. Good citizen award right here. And then she has a very, very funny, I don't even know what this is. Let's just say, have you ever almost died traveling?
So yeah, I've been close to death a lot of times. Not in the sense where I've almost like literally died, like being on cliffs, bungee jumping. Like a lot of people think I'm risking my life doing that. And those don't scare me at all. But the one thing that did scare me, and I literally almost died, was I almost got eaten by a pig. Yeah, a pig.
A flipping pig?
Yes, and it wasn't even I wasn't
How
really
big was
traveling.
This pig?
Okay, context.
Was it a big pig, small pig?
Giant wild
Bailey
boar.
size?
A giant wild boar with tusks. So
was it a mean pig? Was it mean?
Yes.
Oh no, mean pig.
I'll get into a quick story. I wasn't even traveling abroad. We were celebrating Alex's birthday up in Northern California at a winery, and they had a farm, and they told us that we could go in the farm and explore. The animals are nice, and I was like, okay. So we started like hiking in it, and there's like 10 giant pigs, like huge, like this wide, this long, like I don't even know how big, but like maybe 1,000 pounds, maybe not 1,000 pounds, but a couple 100 pounds. I don't know how big pigs are. But they started following us on our hike through their farm. And I was like, this pig keeps following us. So we started going a little faster. Like, oh, this pig can't like go fast. It's like a fat pig. It's not going to chase us. And then we just kept hiking through, and we kept turning around, and we kept seeing it like right behind us. We're like, what the heck? And so we started going a little faster, and like, okay, he's gone. All of a sudden we hear this noise, like this growling, and we turn around, and he is running at us like rah, 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 like this, like chasing us. And I'm like, me and Alex are like, run, and we start running through, and there's literally nowhere to hide. He's running so fast, faster than us. I trip, I drop my glasses. I'm like, oh my God, like literally grab all my stuff. I'm like, climb a tree. So we jump up into this tree, climb all the way up, and pigs like can't look up. So we literally climb into the tree and are silent, and this pig is below us like around the tree looking for us, sniffing. And then it keeps going. And I'm like heaving at this point. And I'm like, did we overreact? Like, was it going to hurt us, or would we have been fine just like chilling? But we didn't want to risk it, you know, you just don't know. So I Googled, I was like, will pigs hurt humans? And then this type of pig, they're like, yes, pigs are super territorial. Like if they don't know you and you're on their land, like they will kill you. Pigs eat human flesh. And there's a ton of stories of like farmers being eaten alive by their pigs. And I'm sitting there scrolling and I'm like, oh my God, Alex, like pigs eat humans. Like pigs will eat their own owners. And there's like hundreds or thousands of cases.
They have like
maybe not
huge
that many
teeth or something. Like
I think
big
because
chompers.
they're just so strong. But then I did the worst thing possible, and I watched a video of a man, a Vietnamese farmer. He has like a bunch of pigs being eaten alive by his. I didn't see the eaten alive part, but he was being attacked by the pig. So I saw the power, and it was the same exact boar or whatever that we were with, and it was he died. And I watched that. So we're still in the tree at this point, miles away from the entrance. We're like, we still have to get back. And
is he just chilling down there? Like the pigs
so
just
he
chilling?
left because luckily pigs, I think they're not the smartest. I don't want to say that because every animal is smart and it's a conscious being.
He's like, all right, they left. I can't look up.
So he like kept sniffing around looking. So we're like, calm down. And we're like, okay, let's get out of this tree with spiders everywhere. So we start walking like, and just like are keeping our eyes on. We see the pig far away. We're like, okay, we'll just go around. And then we hid in this like horse stable for a little bit. And we see all the pigs. They like,
you guys are playing hide and seek from a pig.
No, they're literally 10 giant boars with tusks and big teeth conspiring together. They're all together and like looking at each other like, where'd they go? And then we're like, okay, this is our only chance to make a run for it. We see the entrance, like where the gate where we could like get over. So we run for it. And it's like 100 meters left. We like run for it, get over. And then we look back up and the pigs were at the horse stables we were just at, like pushing on the gates, like looking for us. And that was genuinely one of the times I almost died.
That's got to be the scariest and funniest story you can. That's like a comedy story, but also a serious story.
I was like laughing and crying at the same time because
is anyone gonna believe us? We come back on, Mom, I almost died by a pig. Oh, really? A pig? No, seriously, I almost got eaten by a pig.
I posted a whole like story sequence of it, and people were like, "I don't believe you. Like, it's just a pig." Like, I was thinking the same thing too. Like, there's
it's
no
a tiny
way.
Little
like,
pig.
I'm overreact. It's not a tiny little pig. It's giant. I'm like,
this thing's
I'm
a hogger.
Overreacting.
300-pound pig.
Here's a picture of what it looked like. Like, literally, this is how big the pig was. But I thought I was overreacting, and then when I looked up that they actually kill people, I was like, okay, that was a good response. I'm glad I ran. Otherwise, I would be dead.
Well, that's our pig story, guys.
So I almost died by a pig. Out of all the things I've done, bungee jumping off cliffs, climbing crazy things, I almost died by a pig in a winery in like Sonoma Valley or wherever I was.
I don't know how to react to this. Glad you are alive.
Yes, I will not be going to hang out with.
I need to look up these
pigs.
I need to look up these pigs right now and actually be like, all right, what do these things look like? Because I'm gonna post it on when we were talking about this. I'm gonna pop the picture up so people understand how big this pig is.
Oh yeah, I mean maybe even show the video, but it's pretty gruesome. So maybe not show that video.
And I'm not gonna show a video, but that
you can look it up. Look, man dies by pig, and you will see for yourself.
Look it up, guys, and that includes our episode. Thanks, Kendall, for coming on Mike for Success. We talked about pigs, and we talked about everything else amazing about you and how you can grow as a content creator, a traveler, a spiritual person. Is that a drone?
What is that?
I think that was a drone.
No, I think that's a helicopter. I don't know. Okay.
Man, there's a lot of this is what you get for being outside. But thank you, Kendall, for coming on Mike for Success. I appreciate you coming on, finally finding time as your busy schedule of traveling. And for everyone that doesn't know, what is your socials? Where can they find you on Instagram, YouTube?
Yeah, so you can find me. It's just my name, Kendall Fuhrman, Kendall.Fuhrman on Instagram, and Kendall Fuhrman everywhere else. YouTube, TikTok, and my podcast is Kendall's World. You can find it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, literally everywhere. And I post once a week, spiritual, mindset, motivational stuff. So come join me in my little world, and let's get motivated together to live our best lives.
Yes. And if you guys haven't done so already, my Instagram is Michael Radin, simple as that. And follow Mike for Success on all socials, including the podcast on all Anchor, Spotify, everything she just said, because it's in the exact same spot. But thank you, Kendall, for coming on. And I hope you guys learned a ton today. And this is us tuning out.
Thanks for having me.
Peace, guys.